your light, we will see light, that because we are having this light of this most highest level of light, that's why we become visible as well. That Yidden become visible as well. So to explain that, he started saying that before our level of doing avodah and Torah mitzvahs, the hamshacha is in a very limited fashion, in a mugbal way. But through the avodah of Torah mitzvahs, since they bring down the light of Orcha, your light, the level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, so because of that, we are going to explain that's why we become visible as well. So again, we're holding on page Tes Vav, line 23 in Ois Dalet. So he says, since through us the light becomes visible, the level of that's higher than any limitations comes down into the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyam. So then through this we become visible as an important entity. Like it concludes, like it says in the pasuk, that who is like your nation Yisrael. Shehem Sheichai, the continuation of the pasuk is, let's skip the brackets for a moment to line 28. Goy echad ba'aretz, one goy in the land. She's a moira, one nation in the land. She's a moira al goydel milos b'nei Yisrael. This indicates the great quality of the Yidden legabe kol amei aretz, over all the nations of the world. This is what we're saying, Baoרך Nirאה, that we become more visible, we become more of importance and value in Hashem's presence because of this. Now in the brackets, the Rebbe brings down that the Alter Rebbe and the Maimer just says Umi Kamcha Chulu, etc. He doesn't say Goy Echad Ba'aretz. So he says in the brackets, line 26, it wasn't brought down in the actual Maimer the Alter Rebbe, the rest of the pasuk Goy Echad Ba'aretz, imitzadat censor, or it was there originally, but because of the censor they had to take it out because it focuses and explains the advantage of Yidden over non-Jews. Or perhaps when the Alter Rebbe initially said this Maimer, he said it without saying the end of the pasuk Goy Echad Ba'aretz. Okay, let's continue in line 29 by the parentheses. That the advantage of Yidden over the nations of the world is not just even over those that Tanya says their hashpah comes from Gimel Klipsat Meis, but also Koilol Gam Elush Mekayim Mesheva Mitzpnei Noach. The advantage of Yidden over the nations is also over those that fulfill the Sheva Mitzpnei Noach. That they have a portion in the world to come, like the Rambam wrote. Top of the next page, top of page Tazayin. That those that observe the Sheva Mitzpnei Noach, they're called the Chasidi Umas Ha'olam. They are an exception to what the Alter Rebbe says in the end of Tanya Perek Aleph, and their nefashos comes from Klippas Noiga. So even though their nefashos come from Klippas Noiga and they observe the Sheva Mitzpnei Noach, still in all, they are also completely different, like all the nations are different than the Yidden. So he says in line 2, not only is there no equation between Yidden and the Amei Haaretz, it is even impossible to compare the two. Because who is like your nation, Yisrael, one nation in the earth? In other words, they are completely distinct and different. There's no one that can even be compared, that no one is like your nation. So this is the point that he's saying, that because Yidden draw down Oircha, we draw down Hashem's infinite light through Torah mitzvahs, so that it causes that we become visible now before Hashem. Now he's going to give an even deeper concept to this. Amram yesh inyan nailoi yosef b'davar. There's an even higher matter in this. Ubahagdim, by first prefacing, shebekama drushim huva maimer hayalkut al pasuk. In many mamorim, it's brought down the statement of the Yalkut Shemoini on the pasuk. Imcha makor Chayim באורך נראה. With you is the source of life. With your light, the light will be visible. So the main point of the Yalkut Shemoini is not to explain the Imcha makor Chayim. The point of the Yalkut Shemoini that we're about to say is to explain what does it mean with your light we should see light. Like was explained at length in the previous summer. The Rebbe explained this in a mimer from the previous Chayel. For example, someone lit a candle, vukava, and the candle went out. It was Amar ad Masay Eyim Esyagea. How much am I going to put in effort and toil to kindle the candle? Instead, Amtin Lezrichas Hashemesh ve'elach loira. Instead, I will wait for the sunrise and then I will go by its light. Kach Yisrael. When the Yidden became enslaved in Mitzrayim, Amdu Moshe v'Aaron v'Gol. So Moshe and Aaron arose and redeemed them. So that's like a candle being kindled. Then they were again enslaved in Bavel. So then those arose and redeemed them. Another candle was lit. Then they had the problem with Madai, Paras and Madai with Persia, and then Mordechai and Esther arose and redeemed them again. Another candle was lit. Then they were enslaved again with the Greeks, and the Hashmonai arose and redeemed them. And now again we are enslaved by Edom. Amri Yisrael, so the Yidden said, Harenis Yaganu, we put in away so much toil and effort. Negolim Mishtabdim, V'chayzim Negolim Mishtabdim. We are redeemed and enslaved, and again redeemed, and again enslaved. We're not asking anymore that human beings should be the ones to bring the Geula to make sure that it shines. Allah Kadosh Baruch Hu. We only want Hashem, like it'll be in the future redemption, that there won't be any exile after it. Concerning the Gula Asida, it says, Shir Chadash, we will thank you, a new song. But it says, instead of using the feminine Shir Chadash, it uses the term Shir Chadash. And Shir Chadash, the masculine, indicates, like the Chazal derive from it, that it's a Gula Shein Achara Golos. What does this mean? How does this fit into the pasuk Ba'oרך Nirאה? That instead of having the light of a candle, the light of human beings, we want Hashem's light. Line 22, that in your light will be visible. It's referring to the redemption of the present time. It's the final redemption that's going to be through Mashiach. The request for this redemption that's going to be with Mashiach can only take place when there's exile, not in the times when there was the light of the previous redemptions. Because in the time of redemption, even if it was a temporary thing, even if it was like after the redemption from Mitzrayim, after the redemption from Bavel, whatever it is, even like the redemption from Galus Bavel, etc. In the end, they weren't in a state of darkness. They had the Beis Hamikdash, was during Bayis Sheni. So therefore, there was no urgency and push to ask for Hashem's redemption. So therefore, there's no place, no room to cry out and to beg and to ask that with your light we should be redeemed. or with your light we see the light. Since we find ourselves in a state of light, though the light is not in its perfect state. Like we said, it's still not Baoרך, it's regular light, but we can't beg for light if there is some type of light going on. Okay, moving Gamma Teres of Baal Shem Tov, like it's understood also from the teachings of Baal Shem Tov, Shenem Ra'yidei Rabbeinu Hazaken, that was said by the Alter Rebbe, V'hu Vayde Reb Sein Nesienu Shalachrov, top of page Zion, and it was brought down through the Rebbeinu Nesiim following the Alter Rebbe, Ala Pasik, Kein Ba'kodesh Chazisicha, and the Pasik that says, Samel Chon Nafshi, my soul thirsts for you, Kamal Chabasari, my flesh yearns for you, Kein Ba'kodesh Chazisicha. What does it mean, the conclusion, so in holiness I shall see you? The simple meaning of the pasuk is that since I'm yearning for you and I want to see Hashem, so we're asking that Hashem should appear to us. But the Baal Shem Tov says a different explanation. When is my soul yearning? My soul is yearning when we're in Golus. So Baal Shem Tov says, Halavai ba'kodesh chazisicha k'mei be'eretz tzia v'oyev. Halavai, we wish for that we should see you in holiness. We should have the same connection and passion for Hashem when there is the Beis HaMikdash standing, when we're not in a state of Golus, when in a state of Geula, like in the parched and thirsty land, even that we should experience that great thirst and yearning for Hashem. Hainu, he says in line 4, this means the idea that my soul thirsts to you and my flesh yearns for you, with the entire storm and an ultimate, perfect and complete state of yearning for Hashem. When is this so? When a person feels that they're in a dry and parched land. So therefore, that's the same thing of Baoרך Nirאה, that we ask for it not in the time when it's light, but in the time of darkness. To have this powerful asking of Hashem and yearning for Hashem is not applicable. It's not possible in a time of redemption. Even when it's a redemption through Ezra, or Gulas Mordechai Esther, which is Gulas Purim, even we have the redemption of Mordechai and Esther, the redemption of Purim, or Gulas Chashmonaim, or the redemption of Chashmonaim, we still cannot have this type of strong yearning and asking for light. Because during these redemptions, though it is minor, though it's not Baorecha, but since it is light, and therefore we're not in a dry and parched land. We're not in a thirsty land. But this is understood like it's explained in the Maimer. This pasuk was specifically said during the time of exile. If it's a state and situation of the exile's a state when it's a dry and parched land. Therefore we cry out and we request and we affect that it should be in your light. That the Geula should come through Hashem Himself, then the light will be visible forever and ever. So this is another taich, another explanation of Baoרך Nirאה, about that we're asking for Hashem's essential light should come down to us with the Geula. Based on this new interpretation of Baoרך Nirאה, we'll be able to also explain the beginning part of the pasuk, which the Yalkut doesn't get into, the Imcha Makor Chaim. That Imcha Makor Chaim, we said, means that it's only the thing that's tafel to you, the thing that's ancillary to you, that's a source of life. So he says in line 16, we could explain the Ki Imcha Makor Chaim the way it's in the spheres in an even higher level. Because earlier, like we said, Dinin is Barleil, Shemakar Chaim, Koyal Malchus, Datzilus, Shanasa, Kesel Lebria. Earlier we said, what is the level of with you is the source of life? What's the level of the source of life that's only with you, that's only ancillary to you? That's the level of Malchus, of Atzilus, that becomes a Keser, and therefore a source of life for the created worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. But we can now push it upwards, different levels. Amram Inyan Zeh Yeshna Gam Chol say their Shtalshlus. This to be found also in the general order of the chain descent of the worlds. Shem Malchus the Adam Kadman. Malchus of Ak, the first level after the Tzimtzum Arishan is Adam Kadman. First level on the Kav is Adam Kadman. And Malchus of that level, Nasis Keser La'olim Bri Yitzira Klolim. It becomes a Keser to the general worlds of Bri Yitzira Asiyah. Just like there is the specific worlds of Bri Yitzira Asiyah that follows Atzilus, so too the entire Seder Ishtalshlus is divided into Atzilus Kloli, Bria Klolis, and so on. So in that general Seder Ishtalshlus way, there's the way Malchus of Ak, just like Malchus Atzilus becomes a Keser for Bri Yitzira Asiyah HaPratim, so too Malchus of Ak becomes the Keser for the general levels, for the more encompassing Seder Ishtalshlus levels of Bri Yitzira Asiyah. Shazel Makor Chaim Shchol Seder Ishtalshlus. That's the source of life of the general Seder Ishtalshlus. The way Malchus of Atzilus becomes a Keser to Bri Yitzira Asiyah, that's only a source of life for everything from Bri Yitzira Asiyah, but it doesn't have to do with higher than it. The way Malchus of Ak becomes a Keser for the whole Seder, so then it's a source of life, not just for Bri Yitzira Asiyah, but for an entire Seder Ishtalshlus, which Bri Yitzira Asiyah HaKlolim represent. Yet, even though it's so high, so it says in line 24, even on such a level, it says, with you is the source of life. It's only with you, ancillary and bottled to you. That is the level that we tap into, or the level that's nimshach, just to give chayes to all the Seder Ishtalshlus. But we ilu b'nei Yisrael idea Torah mitzvahs as opposed to the Yid through Torah mitzvahs poil in the Baoרך Nirאה effect and bring about the idea that with your light the light becomes visible. We grasp and we get hold of the light of Hashem Himself, your light, Hashem's very essence. By days in Nirאה, through that the light becomes visible all the way till below, just like we said in Ois Gimel, that how does the light come down to the lowest level till there's a dir lois baruch tachtoinim, that Hashem's very essence comes down here. That's through the Torah mitzvahs, which taps into the level of Atzmos. So the Rebbe is now going to explain how that happens, how that takes place. Top of page Yud Ches. The idea behind this is the Pashta Sainyanim, like in the simple sense, through Torah mitzvahs, we grab hold of Hashem's very essence. That's the idea that He sanctified us with His mitzvahs and He commanded us. And Chassidus always explains that the word mitzvah is related to the Aramaic word tzafsa, together and joining. Like it's explained in Tanya, in the meaning of this nusach of the bracha asher kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav. What's the idea of kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav? Shehelanu, the Alter Rebbe says, Hashem raised us up l'mailas kodesh elyon baruch Hu, to the level of Hashem's supernal holiness. So we have perhaps our own holiness, but with the mitzvahs we become raised up to Hashem's holiness. It's Hashem's very essential holiness in His own glory and self. That's the holiness of Hashem's essence. Like it's known, what's explained in Torah, the explanation of what the Medrash said, that you shall be holy. So he says, the Medrash says, Yochel Kamoini, you would think that when it says you should be holy, that the Yidden's holiness could be on the same level of holiness of Hashem. Talmud Loimer ki Kodesh Ani. It says, Kedoshim Tiyu ki Kodesh Ani, because I am holy. Meaning there's a distinction between your holiness and my holiness. Kedushasi l'mayla m'kedushaskem. My holiness is higher than your kedusha. So then the Tzemach Tzedek adds to this. This is all initially, before we start doing our avodah. So then there's a difference, there's a gap between Hashem's holiness and our holiness. Though initially my holiness is higher than your holiness, through the fact that you are Kodesh, meaning that you become holy through the mitzvahs, like it says, Asher Kiddeshanu b'mitzvotzav, I will make you holy through, that He made us holy through the mitzvahs. So that holiness that's imparted upon us through the mitzvahs, through that, we eventually reach my holiness is beyond your holiness. Even Hashem's holiness, that we said is distinct and higher than your holiness, than the Yidden's holiness, through the mitzvahs that we do, Kiddeshanu, our holiness becomes infused and embedded in it the holiness of above. Va'adraba. Now he adds another component. Keitzad nase ha'inyan d'kedushasi. We said kedushasi l'maylam kedushaskum. Hashem says, my holiness is higher than your holiness. How does Hashem even become holy? What does that mean? Shemoira al hashayches l'seder ishtalshus. When you say that Hashem is holy, that expression itself, that description itself, indicates already a connection with Seder Ishtalshus. How come? The Rebbe says in the brackets, Shari Kedusha Yiloshin Avdol Mishkasu Betanya. The meaning of the word Kedusha is in the word separation, like it's written in Tanya. Vari Havdol Shayach Loimar Rak Al Inyan Shesh Leiza Shayches. When is it possible to say a separation? When two things have some type of association, so then you could say that there is a separation between them. This is higher than that. This is holier than that. So when we say that Hashem is the level of Kedushasi, that Hashem's holiness, that is felt in regards to Seder Ishtalshalos, who accomplishes that holiness of Hashem that is felt in Seder Ishtalshalos? He said in line 20, Harei Zaydei Yisrael. This is accomplished through the Yidden. Like the expression is, who did Hashem consult? He consulted the neshamas of tzaddikim. Concerning the neshamas of tzaddikim, it says, let us make the man in our form and in our image. We know Yidden are called Adam, Atem Kriyim Adam, Ve'enu Olam Kriyim Adam, the Goyim are not called Adam. So this level of the Adam that's B'tzalmeinu Kidmuseinu means Ba'oisit Tzelem V'tzura She'inechak B'machshava Hakduma. In that same form and image, the way we were engraved in the early thought, in the first thought of Hashem. That early thought of Hashem means that Hashem consulted the tzaddikim, meaning our engraved and chiseled out level, the way we were in Hashem's essence. What does it mean that we were engraved in Hashem's thoughts? So he says, Kimavur, B'Torah Sarav HaMagid, Shezel Kimshal Adam. This is explained in the teaching of the Mezritcher Magid. It's, for example, like a person. Sheyesh le ben, he has a son. Even though the son is not in the person's presence at the moment, still in all, the image of the son is engraved within the thought of the father. By a person, the engraving of the sun's image is only after he had the sun. Before he had the sun, it's not possible for that to be. But by Hashem, it's different by a person, that this engraving that we are engraved in Hashem's thought was there even before Yidden were created. That their form and image was engraved in Hashem's thought. Like the Chazal said, that Yidden arose in Hashem's thought. How could that be? Shavim, that the past and the future are the same. We'll stop over here.